Welcome to Post Game Live. Some Patriots fans getting their wish today. Jerod Mayo has been fired as Patriots head coach after one season. Team finished with a 4-13 record after their win today over the Buffalo Bills, a win that cost the team the #1 overall pick in the NFL draft this spring. Robert Krafts released a statement post-game and read in part, after the game today, I informed Jerod Mayo that he will not be returning as the head coach of the New England Patriots in 2025. For me personally, this is one of the hardest decisions I have ever made since buying the team. I have always considered myself and my family as custodians of a public asset. We have tremendous fans who expect and deserve a better product than we have delivered in recent years. I apologize for that. I've given much thought and consideration to what actions I can take to expedite our return to championship contention and determined this move was the best option at this time. As I said, welcome to Post Game Live. It is brought to you by your New England Ford dealers. We got a lot to talk about here. We knew that there was a possibility that this could happen. I don't think a lot of us thought it would happen today, January 5th. We got the whole crew here. Everybody is on set. We've got Phil Perry, who has been doing an amazing job all season long of covering the Patriots. Phil Perry drove up from Gillette Stadium to be in studio for this. Appreciate you, Phil.
Threw the siren on top of the car.
There it is.
Here as fast as I could, boys.
Got an escort coming through. Got to get to the studio quickly. Got Tommy Curran, has been covering the Patriots since 1997. He knows something about coaching hires and firings. Got Ted Johnson, the 3-time Super Bowl champion, who has played his entire career, played for Hall of Fame coaches, and I'm Michael Holley. So we got a lot to talk about here. Just first thoughts. Phil, I'll start with you. Just top of mind, what did you think when you heard the news?
So things have been trending in this direction, I would say, over the course of the last week or so, according to people that I've spoken to in the building. Not necessarily that they knew that this would be the move, that they would be firing Jerod Mayo, win or lose, after this finale against the Bills, but that the confidence with which they attacked this situation, they approached this situation, just wasn't there in a way that it was earlier in the season. And I think that Chargers game really impacted the overall equation for the Krafts, Tom. I think it was embarrassing on a number of different levels, and I think they weren't seeing the improvement in certain areas of the organization, the overall big picture aspects of the job at head coach that they hoped they would. And so the availability of Mike Vrabel, to me, is a part of this story. This looms large. This would represent an option that they like to move on to after parting ways with Jerod Mayo. And I think the overall approach to me is that we have to figure out how we're going to fix this and fix it fast, and they make the move faster than I think a lot of people were anticipating.
And that, to me, Michael Holley, Ted Johnson, Phil Perry, is what's the most telling about this decision. Is I've lamented the fact that the Patriots have really, since 2017, lacked urgency. They continue to believe that things will work themselves out. And when you have the most historic professional sports franchise of this century, and perhaps last century as well, you are entitled to believe that things will work themselves out if you adhere to the principles that were there. So I understand their reluctance to be urgent, to be decisive, and they haven't been, whether it was post-Brady, the latter times of Bill, or even moving on to Jerod. It was very much a, we'll see how it goes, let's just see how this works out. And this was a very decisive move. Now, if this is only the first portion of a move and they don't have a cogent piece in place after this, Ted, it feels like a panic move. That would be going from the frying pan into the fire. As I said to Phil earlier this week, they right now are in the ocean clinging to driftwood in the form of Jerod Mayo and Elliott Wolf. The only way they can let go of that driftwood is if they have a lifeboat passing someplace else that they can climb into. If they're just letting go of it, they're going to end up down at the bottom of the deep.
My guess is they have, a good feeling that another lifeboat is going to come around pretty soon. That's my take on it. And a lot of us think that, look, you don't fire Jerod Mayo this soon if you don't already have a good idea of kind of a direction where you want to go. So buckle up, Patriots fans. It's going to be an exciting offseason for sure. But I give the Krafts a lot of credit because I think this was the right decision, and I knew it wasn't going to be an easy decision. And a lot of us in the media that know Jerod, we all like Jerod, but I just felt like if you just brought him back, it was going to be really just very difficult for the fan base, I think, to kind of receive that and deal with that. It was going to be a very long offseason if you did bring Jerod Mayo back. Now that he's been fired, I give the Krafts a lot of credit because it's going to be, my guess is a very thorough kind of interviewing process. You're going to have to spend a lot of money. It's going to take a lot of time. And my guess is they were hoping to avoid that. But they concluded probably after last week's game, guys, because I think that was the tipping point, that they needed to move on, and that was the best thing for the organization. So I give them a lot of credit. It couldn't have been an easy decision, but in my opinion, it was the right decision, Michael.
Ted, I can't give them credit. When I sat there on January 17th, 2024. I didn't say January 17th, 2021 or 2022, 2024, not even a year ago. I sat there and I heard them praise Jerod Mayo, who they had identified for a long time, and they said it was going to be a partnership between Jerod Mayo and, well, they didn't say officially Elliott Wolf then, but it became Elliott Wolf and Jerod Mayo in the spring, a partnership. And so now you have moved on back-to-back 4-13 seasons, 4-13 Bill Belichick, 4-13 Jerod Mayo. You move on from Mayo, and you still have Elliott Wolf there. And Mayo, we know there were some mistakes. Phil, I'll start with you again. We know there were some mistakes he made, but that was part of the gumbo in Foxborough. There are some other mistakes, some personnel mistakes. Elliott Wolf stays. Jerod Mayo goes. Less than a year after being announced right here at this press conference. What gives? Well, I think it's strange, Phil.
I would say Elliott Wolf stays for now. I would not assume that his job or anyone else's really in that front office is guaranteed for 2025. That's my understanding of the situation. What I have been told is, as of now, Tom, there have been no moves made to the front office. I was told there have been no moves made to the coaching staff outside of Jerod Mayo. Now, usually when the head coach gets fired, that means the staff is going to go. But those things are still in flux. It's still a fluid situation. But I know there has been some reporting that the expectation is that Elliott Wolf will remain in his role as executive vice president of player personnel moving forward. I would say let's hit the pause button on those discussions, because whoever they bring in, whether it's Mike Vrabel or anybody else, that person is going to have a say. And the Krafts know as well as anybody, Tom, arranged marriages in this league don't tend to work all that well. And so you're going to
including this one.
Some sort of.
This was one of them. Wasn't this an arranged marriage?
That's what I was
going to say. Well, those two guys had experience with each other. I don't think it was as arranged as some others, but generally speaking, not a good idea.
It was an arranged commune. They basically put everybody in the commune and said, hey, Jerod, here's your offensive coordinator, and while you're at it, here's your offensive line coach. And we got this guy, Tyler Hughes. He coached wide receivers back at Snow College in 2004. We're going to bring him back. He's been kicking around with Jed Fish, who used to be. They just smashed everybody together in a jumbo-style operation. What a tangled web they have woven. And I will say this about personnel. When we look at that, we so traditionally see personnel departments are often kept intact through the offseason, because what have they been doing since August? Scouting college players, developing draft strategies. This is an incredibly critical draft. You can say, all right, we'll just take all these guys out behind the barn and get rid of them, and we'll have somebody else look at all these players who are going to be taking it 4 and 35 and 68 or whatever those picks are going to be. But you do have to at least say, well, they're not complete boobs. We did hire Elliott and Matt for a reason. They have done all this work. We'll keep them around. But I am not impressed with Elliott Wolf. I'm not impressed with the cut of his jib. I'm not impressed with the way he has done his job. I'm not impressed with the words that he had to say about, I expected better player development this year. I guess I got that wrong. I'm not impressed with the fact that he's hidden under his desk all year. So to me, whoever does come in as head coach is going to be tethered to an executive who's done very little to recommend him as somebody who should be quarterbacking the rest of this decade for the team. This decisive move, again, Ted, like you said, you praise them for being decisive, and I do too. Michael, good point. You shouldn't be decisive 12 months after you should have been decisive.
Right.
But if you're going to be decisive in this move, you better have a lifeboat to climb into and a plan.
And I just can't imagine that their plan is to keep going with Elliott Wolf. I can't imagine. I mean, the big reason that things didn't work out for Mike Vrabel, and that's the name that everyone's thrown out there as maybe the next possible head coach here, part of that relationship dissolved in Tennessee because of Mike Vrabel's relationship with the general manager at the time, that they didn't see eye to eye. And so to me, if you want to make this this to me is a very attractive job for any potential head coaches out there in the NFL. The Patriots have a quarterback that you can pretty much feel like you have confidence that he's going to be the guy to take you into the next 10 years. You have a lot of money to spend. You have a fan base that just loves their football team. And you have owners that want to turn this thing around, that are motivated to turn it around. So to me, this is a very attractive job. But if it's kind of the caveat is that you take this job and Elliott Wolf is your general manager, I don't think that is very as attractive anymore, and particularly to a Mike Vrabel. So to me, Elliott Wolf is kind of dead man walking. I just can't imagine him being here through the next few days. I feel like he's going to pretty much get the pink slip in the next day or two.
I think they ate one of their own today, though. You talk about how it's an attractive job. Jerod Mayo, drafted by the Patriots, developed by the Patriots, on the coaching staff, took the trip with Robert Krafts. I'm going by his words, okay? This is what Robert Krafts said. I knew I had my head coach. I didn't want to lose him, so I wrote this into the contract. So you have the youngest coach, the second youngest coach in the NFL, Mike McDonald, slightly younger than Jerod Mayo. 38-year-old, first-time coach, your guy, and you fire him after he goes 4-13 when you acknowledge that there have been problems on the roster. But I wonder this. This was announced today. It was announced today, an hour after the game. Any theories, conspiracy theories, informed information about why, I'll start with you, Tom, on this one, on why it happened so quickly? Why today?
My belief is that they wanted to be right in the middle of the line, front of the line, along with the other teams who've already made a move in the coaching search that will start to ensue tomorrow. They can get on the phone right now and start making their calls and not feel as if, hey, we're going behind someone's back, so they can hit the ground running in the coaching search, because they got to get it right, Phil.
Yeah, there's no question. I think it was interesting this week. I think it was a big bit of Patriots news, even though it was veiled as Jets news, was that Mike Vrabel went and interviewed first with the Jets before the 2024-2025 regular season even ended. And I know there are several people in the league that I've spoken to who believed and who saw that move as calculated by Vrabel. And as Vrabel shaking his tail feather from a few hundred miles away down in Jersey at the Krafts and letting them know, if you want me, you might have to act fast or you'll have to deal with me in the division for the next decade, potentially. And so this is one way of making sure you're ready to go when it comes to that Mike Vrabel sweepstakes, which we think will be going on this week.
Absolutely, 100%. I feel it in my bones. That was Vrabel shaking his hiney. That's exactly what he was doing. He wanted to get the attention of the Patriots, and Vrabel's name came up a few weeks ago in post game that we were talking about, and we're just kind of figuring out what would Mike want to come here? Is this a place he wanted? And I said yes. I mean I hung out with him for a while when he was inducted in the Patriots Hall of Fame last year, and I'm talking to him, and I just got this sense that he kind of missed it here. Like he was really kind of reflective and just really. He seemed like he missed the good old days when he was a Patriot. And Patriot fans know at his Hall of Fame speech at halftime what he said to the fans there. It felt like he really missed being here. So I have no doubt that Mike probably wants to come here and coach here because I just think he likes his experience when he was here. He sees the kind of the potential that he has with the current roster right now. And so to me, that was very much a calculated thing. And don't kid yourself. That was maybe in part why the Patriots made the decision as fast as they did. It sped up their decision making. Mike's out there talking to other teams. If you read the press release from the Patriots about the Jerod Mayo firing, Robert Kraft in there says he was worried about Jerod going to another team, and that's why they acted on putting in a contract that kept him here as a head coach when Bill left. So. That's clearly kind of in how they think is they can get triggered.
They need to have the candidate. Impulsive. They need to have the candidate before they make the move. That's right. To me. I do. They have to have the candidate. Otherwise, it's cart ahead of the horse. So I agree with all you're saying. I ask you guys, and we can be here for a while. So strap in. I'd love to get into the nuts and bolts and really distill why Jerod Mayo is not the head coach and specifically detail that. But I would ask you guys this. Probably got a break. I saw your hand motions. What's the most attractive job that is open right now? New Orleans, New England, Jets,
Chicago.
Are the Patriots the most attractive job? Because I look at them as being a bit archaic in the way they've been doing things. Albert Breer did an outstanding job all week long explaining where the Patriots are. And if you hire Mike Vrabel, say Elliott Wolf is just here for the next 15 minutes and they say goodbye to him in April, are you going to let him be the major domo of your organization? Or does he have to come in with Josh McDaniels or Brian Daboll or somebody who's going to wring the most they can out of an incredibly talented quarterback?
This is the most attractive job. I think this is the most attractive job, whether you're a front office person or whether you're a head coach, because you have the quarterback and you also have all this money to spend in free agency, and you obviously have needs on your roster, but you have means to fix the roster. And so that's how you should be looking at it. I think you also have an ownership group that is proven it's committed to winning, and that it can be at its best organized and have a vision and have a direction, unlike relative to the other organizations that are looking for coaches. I would say the Jets and the Bears specifically have had a really hard time for multiple decades making sure that they have a message and they have an understanding of what they're looking for. So it hasn't looked like that lately for the Krafts, Michael. But you're talking about with these other teams, you're talking about historic failure for a long period of time.
But I would say, Phil, that Chicago also has a quarterback, same draft class. So I like Drake May more than Caleb Williams, but Caleb Williams is a good quarterback as well. So they got a quarterback as well. And the Patriots explained their vision less than a year ago and then went away from their vision. So they have no vision.
They don't have a vision.
They have no vision.
Not right now.
They got no vision, so I don't know.
All they want to be is tough, smart, and disciplined. That's not a vision. There's nobody who doesn't want that.
Right.
Pop Warner teams want that.
They wanted Jerod Mayo to have a vision when there was no organization. They wanted him to establish a culture, but there's no organizational culture. And I would say, Ted, I'm not sure it's a great job or it is the most attractive job, because they had, for 20 years, they had cover. They had the cover of Bill Belichick, who was a one-man vision, was a one-man operation for everything. Hey, ask Bill. It goes through Bill. He's the voice. He's the face of the franchise. And now that Bill is out of the way, with Bill 1 year removed from Bill Belichick, we're already on to the next guy. 1 year removed from him. So I think they're still trying to find themselves as well. This is very interesting.
We try to hire the best people we can find and let them do their job and hold them accountable. And if we've hired the wrong people, then we'll have to make a change.
All right, well, it appears that Robert Kraft did exactly that. Here's a look at some of Jerod Mayo's missteps or questionable comments in his tenure as Patriots head coach. 1 year, fired today after 1 year. He said we're ready to burn some cash in the offseason. That was during an interview. He walked that back. Guaranteeing the team would win more than 4 games. Not so. 4-13 this year. Said Drake May outplayed Jacoby Brissett and then started Brissett week 1. Called players soft after losing to the Jaguars. In reference winning Super Bowl 49 against the Roman numerals always throw me off. I think it was 49 against the Seahawks. After not calling a timeout, there's a famous "you said it, I didn't" in response to some design runs, Phil Perry. Get some design runs in there. And then he said Ramondre Stevenson would not start after all the fumbles, just to make it a point. And then Ramondre Stevenson did start. After telling people in a production meeting that Antonio Gibson would get the nod. By the way, we didn't ask you, how do you feel about the Patriots firing Jerod Mayo? Most of you have weighed in. Most of you think it is a good decision. So, Tom, you got to it. You said, why is Jerod Mayo not the head coach of the Patriots?
I love that. I think it's really good to distill it down. I think that they went 4-13, same as Bill. The Krafts said we expect to struggle this year. We hope we don't, but we expect it's going to happen. I think he's out mostly because of things that he promised, whether it be culturally, communication-wise, foundation building, improvement. Those things simply didn't happen. So the record is the same, but the players didn't get better, the communication didn't get better, the culture didn't necessarily improve. So those are the reasons he's out. Had they beaten, say, Seattle or Tennessee or the Jets the second time they beat the Jets, any of those 6 or 7 games that they could have won, and they finished with 5 or 6 wins, would he have been safe? It's interesting to think about.
Would he? Do you think he would?
Yeah, I do.
So 5-12 with because we're talking about Mike Vrabel still available, 5-12, including, let's say you still got the 40-7. So let's say you beat Tennessee in overtime, and you're 5-12, and you still lose to the Chargers 40-7. You still have the missteps that we pointed out there, and Mike Vrabel's still available.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Look, I think each loss was treble damage. So you get that loss against Tennessee. Oh, you could have gone for 2. That was bad. 40-7. The treble damage in Week 17, Phil, from that loss is significant. So I guess all those pillars that I mentioned: communication, foundation, player improvement, Mayo's own ability to message, and then the timing of the losses.
Yeah, there are a few different things that I think would have played into this. Tom's right. I agree with everything Tom said. I think the nature of that 40-7 loss and some of the things that happened in that 47 loss, you mentioned the Ramondre Stevenson versus Antonio Gibson thing, which I think was a little window. Not a huge decision, didn't impact the game to me necessarily, but a little window into the level of communication or lack thereof that's been occurring on the coaching staff for something like that to happen. Keeping Drake May late in that game after clearly suffering a head injury earlier in the game, coming back in, not only coming back in, but staying in when they're down 30 points and playing behind a couple backup offensive line. I would have questions about decision-making after that game, and I think that maybe shook the Krafts. Ted, I would look at this. I've been reporting for a while, just talking to people around the league. I think it would be really hard for you to be able to get the change you want at the coordinator spots by keeping Jerod Mayo. And I wonder if they look at it and they said, well, we need a new piece here, and we need a new piece there, and we didn't love what we got from this coach or that coach. If you try to piecemeal it with Jerod Mayo there at the center, you're probably not getting the qualified people that you're looking for, because it's a really hard spot to bring in somebody who has a great resume and say, and you get to work with Jerod Mayo, who's now on the hot seat starting his second season.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that would have impacted them at all.
And it might have, Phil. It absolutely might have. And you talk about, would he still be here if there was 5 or 6 wins? And I think you said it, Tom, at the very end of your dialogue there. You said the timing of the wins matter. Like, you win, 5 games, but they were all in the first, 8 weeks of the season, and then you lose every game after that. It doesn't. It's how you fit. I think a big part of it is how does it look at the end. And, a lot of us were kind of looking at, kind of those games leading up to the bye week. And then, okay, it didn't look too good leading up to the bye week. Okay, how do they look coming out of the bye week? And we saw how they performed against the Arizona Cardinals coming out of the bye week. And then you have a Chargers team that really, look, they have a better roster than the Patriots, but it shouldn't have been, 35 points better of a roster. It was a complete and utter no-show just last week, and then the fallout from that game, the Ramondre Stevenson stuff, the Jelani Tavai kind of comments, that to me, it's how it ended in the last month of the season that was probably the biggest reason Jerod's not here anymore.
I also would look at, and you mentioned Jelani Tavai and the back and forth with the fans, and the fans being as upset as they are. It's become a toxic situation here in New England when it comes to Jerod Mayo. And if you're Robert Kraft, and you're the Kraft family, and you care about how the fans feel and how they think and how you are perceived as owner of the New England Patriots, what better way to get back in their good graces than to make a change here? It could be expensive. It's embarrassing. You have to move on from this guy after your gut told you that he was the guy, to follow the guy. But with the way the environment is right now, Tom, I wonder if they looked at it and they're saying to themselves, listen, we still love Jerod. We think he'll be a great head coach. They said it in their statement tonight. But they also made sure, Robert Kraft. Robert Kraft says in his statement that he released from the team, since buying the team, I've always considered myself and my family as custodians of a public asset. We have tremendous fans who expect and deserve a better product than the one we have delivered in recent years. I apologize for that. This matters to him. And I'm not saying the fans made this choice for him, Tom, but I think they are impacting the situation here, and whether or not Jerod Mayo could have dug himself out of it. I wonder if they are looking at that as well.
Yeah.
That press conference, any takeaways from some of the things he said there? There were some issues with, clearly, of winning the game, because we know if the Patriots had lost the game, they would have been guaranteed the number 1 overall pick. They win. Tennessee now has the number 1 overall pick. The Patriots, at number 4? What are some of our takeaways from this press conference? Phil, start with you.
Yeah, I was interested to hear if there had been any sort of conversation, and really had been asking Mayo all week, Wednesday, Friday, and then tonight, if there was any conversation between those who own the organization and those who run the football operation as to how to handle the game today. And Mayo said no, with the first overall pick at stake. I thought those conversations probably should have been had. Now, that said, they didn't necessarily play it to win. They played it to win, and maybe they coached it to win. They didn't manage the roster to win. They got the face of the franchise quarterback out after one series. Kyle Duggar played about a half. Devon Godchop played about a half. Hunter Henry didn't play at all. He's dealing with an injury, but he oftentimes plays through things. And so, Tom, I'm not sure how much more they could have done other than just, give it to Antonio Gibson and ask him to run between the tackles 100 times today. How much more they could have done. It did feel like they were playing for that first overall pick in some ways just by how they managed the roster. I think that's sort of all you can do short of just having guys take knees out there.
I agree, and I need to be consistent because earlier this week last week I said, put in your backups and bit players and then play the game as you normally would. But you can't do half measures. If you're going to have Drake May out after the first. You got Terrell Jennings. He's a running back. No need to have Antonio Gibson ripping off runs. You don't have to have Keyshawn Boutte, who's kind of a decent player that you keep around catching passes. Throw it to Javon Baker. If you don't like it, you don't like it. Too bad. You can't win the friggin' game. And,
So you're upset with them winning?
I think that I was okay with it conceptually as the week went on. But then to see the Bills actively doing a very discreet take the game. If you guys want to take it.
Happy to give it to them.
If they're going to dumb into that, then fine, take it. But it's not a massive deal. But to Phil's point, you either feel as a coaching staff that we don't even have to talk with ownership because we understand what we're trying to accomplish here, or we don't bother to because we just don't understand that that's the ramifications of doing this. And I think, unfortunately, it's the latter. From all we've heard this year, that there was so frequently the extra step not taken to engage in communication to make sure everybody was on the same page with everything. And this was an important situation. Look, being at number one for the Patriots might not matter that much because everyone knows they have a quarterback and they might look at him and go, well, they're just going to take Travis Hunter. I'm not trading with them. They're going to have Travis Hunter. But now they don't really have a chance to get Travis Hunter if the other teams take Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, for instance, and then number 3 takes Travis Hunter. So a lot changed, and you lost the chance to trade down and add assets for Elliott Wolf to spend on players who can't play. So to me, if you look at this team and the situation they're in, and I don't think today changed anything, but I found the post game again to prattle on just a little bit more. Mayo in a similarly clipped manner with the media. I think that he feels he's probably been done wrong and sold down the river by a media that really tried to give him the benefit of the doubt a lot of the way through.
Big time. And I'll just say this. If fans are upset with Jerod Mayo for him, for them winning the game, I think they're misguided in their thinking. I mean, if you're upset with the Patriots winning today, and I am. I'm kind of upset. You started Drake May, okay, but there's so much of a better leverage and no negotiating kind of seat to be the number 1 overall pick versus number 4. And what was this win really going to do? It had more to do with, I think, Jerod Mayo just, saying that, hey, at least I wasn't worse than Bill. I think that. So the coaches had a motivating factor that was driving them that I think was different from the owners. If the owners didn't want them to win this game, they needed to be clear and go communicate that to Jerod and his coaches. It sounds like I get it, and I really can't imagine them doing it. But that's what needed to happen. If the fans are mad at anybody, it should be the ownership for not making what they wanted clear enough to the coaches so that they could, like Phil's mentioned, engineer the game in a way that they lose the game.